Hi everyone, welcome back to Ferrigno Freedom Channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno, and I have been doing a carnivore diet known as the lion diet now for 3 years. That means I only eat ruminant meat, water, and salt. For those of you who don't know what the word ruminant means, go ahead and use Google because it'll tell you all about it. It's pretty simple though. It's basically red meat. But anyway, this is my buddy Sam. He's a carnivore too, and we are here for a reaction to a video by Joe Rogan where he is talking about vegan dieting. One of the things that I get a lot of people that are vegan or vegetarian like to try to push on me is some kind of guilt that by eating meat, I'm hurting the planet, I'm hurting animals, I'm causing the slaughter of animals, I'm doing all kinds of horrible things to animals because of my way of eating. And nothing could be further from the truth. And this video is called, If You Want to Kill the Most Things, Become a Vegan. And I thought, well, this should hopefully touch on exactly what many of us carnivores already know. So let's take a look at it.
You can go to any gun store or pawn shop and buy a 30-year-old Remington 700 with a scope on it for $400. Box of bullets is going to cost you $30. License is going to cost you $35. You can go shoot a hog, you can go shoot a deer, which someone's got to manage them. The ecosystem's demolished, so there's nothing else doing it, so they're just going to overpopulate and disease. And you can create a year's worth of meat for $600.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then the next year you cut it down to $300, and then the next year you cut it down to $150.
Yeah, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's
and you're
very...
Yeah, I got into hunting a few years ago for the first time. I think I was in my mid-40s, around 45, 46. I started deer hunting. I absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, ever since COVID, I haven't been able to participate in it. I wasn't able to, at least back then. And then since I've moved to Florida, I just don't know where to go. I don't know anything about the area. It took me forever to where I got comfortable in an area that I lived in Georgia, because I wasn't in the groups of people that went hunting. Finally, I found somebody who was willing to teach me about it, and it changed everything. But I haven't done that in a few years. I'd love to be able to get back to it because I think it's a great thing to be able to have that connection with what you're eating, that you saw that living animal and you took its life and then you used it to give you and your family life. I think that's an important part of the process that's missing from the American diet or the standard diet around the world, is we're so disconnected with where our food comes from. We don't even understand what it is that what sacrifices were made for us to keep on going. This is a part of life. This is a part of nature. This is the way life is. But we're trying to live as if life wasn't really life. We're trying to live as if up isn't up and down isn't down. Gravity doesn't matter. We're living as right is wrong and wrong is right. And it's totally disillusioned us to everything. That's why you can't watch hardly anything on television anymore without wanting to pull your hair out, because there's one person saying the exact opposite of what somebody else is saying on every subject these days, because nothing seems to have any tangibility anymore, because we're so divorced from reality, we don't know which way is up.
You're taking responsibility for your own food.
Yeah. And still, there's people that think there's something wrong with that. But that's how disconnected society is.
Well, that's the look. I think one of the most absurd positions anyone can take is they're a vegan for an ethical reason. It's preposterous. You could do it for a medical reason, even though I don't know what that reason would be, but maybe you can't process, meat, you can't process proteins like that. But to do it from an ethical reason is absurd.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is I have plowed a field. It is carnage. It is 12 feet of carnage. And every single plant that you eat is going to be tilled into the ground in some capacity. So you're going to kill everything when you plow that field.
Famous conversation that Kevin Costner has in Yellowstone.
That's why I wrote it. Yeah. People have to understand. You have to take ownership.
That same thing, Ted Nugent has said this on this podcast. He said, if you want to kill the most things, become a vegan.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're thinking about individual life, if you don't think that one life equals one life, if you think that small things aren't as valuable as large things, that's a totally different discussion, and that's a weird discussion. But if you think that all
A weird discussion coming from a guy who used to have people eating worms and beetles and cockroaches on Fear Factor. Oh man, I tell you, I have been watching Fear Factor so much lately. I get addicted to everything. My channel, my TV in my living room, when I turn it on, it used to just turn on right to my Apple TV setting, which would allow me to watch my YouTube or whatever it is that I wanted to watch with my family at the time. But lately it hasn't been working right, and it's been turning on to its own like built-in television system. I don't understand how I have what looks like satellite on my TV, even though I don't actually have any service like that. One of the channels is the Fear Factor channel, and I turned it on one day and I just couldn't stop watching it. I had that on the entire day, even while I was cleaning the house and doing other stuff. It was addictive. I get addicted to things. But it's so funny to hear Joe Rogan say that now after watching all the episodes of Fear Factor I've watched in the past week.
Life is sacred. Well, what about the lives of the ground nesting birds, fawns?
Yeah.
What about the lives of rodents, insects? All those things are getting demolished.
The average organic avocado farm in Central California is going to kill, on average, around 19,000 ground squirrels a year. That's not counting the billions of bees, because they're going to bring the bees up from Brazil to pollinate the trees, and then they're going to die. They're not sending them back anywhere. They're not keeping them no, they're gone. They're going to spray with some organic, which is probably just like compressed cayenne pepper. They're going to spray the trees. They're going to kill every bug, every plant, everything. All you got to do is drive I-5 through the San Joaquin Valley, and you'll see plenty of almonds. You'll see plenty of all these different groves. You won't see any birds. You won't see anything else. Yeah. They killed them all.
Yeah, that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow that think they're doing something that's ethically correct.
Well, if you look anywhere in the ecosystem, take man out of it, virtually everything is living at the expense of another organism, to the degree that if a certain weed grows up over the grass, it's killing the grass.
Yep.
If the tree grows up, this little sapling grows up over the grass, it's killing the grass. The grass grows up before the weeds, it kills the weeds, kills the flowers, kills this. Everything is in competition with everything else. There is not a vegan fish. There's not a vegetarian fish. Every single fish, every frog, they're eating another organism to survive. Every one of them. And that's what we did for whenever we split from apes. That's what we did. Apes still do it. They talk about, they eat fruit. They eat fruit till they get a hold of those little freaking panzer monkeys. Yeah. And then they go to town. Those chimpanzees.
They didn't even know about that until that David Attenborough documentary.
Yeah.
You ever see that one?
Yeah.
Where they're eating
dude, they go to war. If you ever wonder where our violent streak comes from, watch Chimpanzees.
Yeah. Have you seen Chimp Nation?
No.
That's another great Netflix series.
It has nothing to do with chimpanzees. It has all to do with the sin nature we're born with. But that's a video for another day.
Yeah.
Incredible. They kill each other. And I asked the guy, I go, how often do they kill monkeys? He goes, we really didn't show how many times they killed monkeys because they do it so often.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's literally their preferred food.
Yeah. They're going to eat the leaves and the fruits and everything until they need that protein.
Yeah, they eat the fruit because it's easy.
Yeah.
But if they can find monkeys, they go after monkeys.
Yeah.
And they eat them alive. They just start chewing on them. There's a video of this monkey's like screaming while this chimp is eating him from the hips down. Just rah! You see his little face, and it just looks so much like us to watch him just get eaten alive by a chimp who also looks a lot like us. Is just so fucked.
Yeah.
That's the real nature. That's not vegan nature. That's not this bullshit utopian artificial paradise that people have created in their mind that they're doing if they're eating vegan. It's just not true. Unless you're growing all of your own food in your yard, unless you have a contained environment where you're composting and using mulch and you're making sure that everything that you grow, you're picking it yourself, you're just fencing it off to keep squirrels from eating it. If that's not the case, you're involved in murder.
But even then, you don't think you're going to have what happens when the grasshoppers come.
Right.
And they'll get through that fence.
Oh, yeah. And they'll devastate your crops. You're going to have to kill the grasshoppers.
You can kill the grasshoppers, and then what are you going to do when the squirrel gets in? You can't fence off your trees.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Well, you're either going to give away a lot of your crop, which you're not going to want to do, Or you're going to come up with a way to, or you're going to run the squirrel off. Okay, well then you just killed it because you ran it out of its habitat. So it just dies a slower death.
Yeah, exactly right. Who was that guy? He was apparently a writer on their show, on the show for, what was that show he mentioned with Kevin Costner? Yellowstone. Couldn't think of it. I haven't seen it in a while. I watched like the first season and I hadn't watched it since then, but it's one that I'd wanted to get back to. But I'm going to tell you, I just don't like a lot of TV shows these days. I like a lot of the old stuff, but I don't like hardly any of the new stuff. Anyway, pretty good example of exactly what goes on. We totally are trying to ignore the reality of life when it comes to some of these ideological eating principles. And now we've got people that want us to be eating bugs on a regular basis. I mean, watch Fear Factor. That's the stuff we used to do on a dare. They had to give you $50,000 to want to eat some of that garbage. Now they want you to pay for it. We live in insane times, y'all. And this whole notion that being a carnivore is bad for animals or it's murderous or anything like that is absolute nonsense. It's a total evasion of reality. And it's making us all crazy. And we're just getting crazier and crazier as we watch this train travel on down the tracks heading toward a bridge that's out. That's the way it feels right now. Well, anyway, I'm glad that they were able to point that out. I'm glad Joe's guest was able to kind of keep Joe on track because he keeps trying to veer off to the left all the time. But stay the course, guys. Meat heals. Meat has changed my life and made me so much better than I ever was before. Physically, mentally, even spiritually. Getting all the poison out of my life has changed everything. Not just for the food, but also for the things that I put into my mind and the things that I listen to, the things that I do. It's changed everything. And it can change everything for you too. But really, it just starts with having good nutrition. Getting away from all the lies we've been told about the food that is supposedly good for us to eat. That's all I got for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
When I'm editing, sometimes it's really hard to have time to get up and make something to eat. That's why I love Carnivore Crisps. I keep a bag handy just in case I get a little hungry so that I don't have to be distracted from my work. I can stop for a moment, have some delicious food that is perfectly on my way of eating, that has been so good for my body and so good for my mind. Beef brisket is my favorite by far of all the Carnivore Crisps. Get yours at carnivorecrisps.com and use my coupon code DANTE, D-A-N-T-E, to save 10% on your order. I hope you love them as much as I do.